Auto-obsessed here. I'm really proud to announce that Auto-obsessed has just turned 12 years old. I founded the company in 2010, and the Auto-obsessed boutique, detailing studio, and the Auto-obsessed clean room were created in 2012. So 10 years ago, we created the facility. We've been asked many times from friends and from customers that aren't in our region to do a tour of our facility. And the saying goes basically, better late than never. I think this is an amazing opportunity at our 10-year anniversary to do that. You've probably seen pictures and some videos of our studio and our clean room, but we've never actually done a formal tour. So I'm excited to be able to do that for you today. And I just want to remind you before we begin to stay tuned to the end of the video, because we're going to show some pictures of the building before, some before and afters, also some of the many vehicles that have been through the Auto-obsessed detailing studio and clean room. So come on in, let's check it out. Welcome to the Auto-obsessed detailing studio. So right off the bat, you're going to notice the facility is super white and super bright. And that's exactly what I was going for. So a few things I was going for when I was building the detailing studio. I wanted something ultra bright. I wanted it clean. I wanted to minimize clutter. I wanted something that was very easy to maintain, something that was efficient as possible and also as dust-free as possible. So you're going to see white floors, white walls, white ceilings. So the walls are actually done in a PVC. So what's really great about that is you don't have to worry about painting, scratching, dents. The cost is pretty good when you calculate all the things you'd have to do if you're doing a different type of wallboard. It's water resistant. We can wet the walls. When we're cleaning it, we just can simply spray on some quick detailer. We can do a dry mop on it and we can get the dust down. And also plastics naturally has a charge, so it actually attracts dust. So it's one of the things that we kept in mind when I was building the facility, how to keep it dust free. I mean, you're doing PPF, you're doing paint correction. You want to have the facility as clean as possible and as dust-free as possible. The ceiling tiles, you see it's a full white ceiling, so we didn't go with an open type ceiling. I wanted to make sure we could control the dust. So this is actually clean room tiles that are there. So those are tiles that you'd see in a server clean room, so they're dust-free. So they're not constantly, you know, when there's movement, dropping dust. And same thing, white, so we could reflect the light. So keep it super bright. The lighting, this facility just turned 10 years old. At the time, there wasn't the technology that we have today for LED lighting. So I wanted something that was super bright, cost effective, as efficient as possible, and give us the maximum lighting. So these are fluorescent T5 high output bulbs. They're a 6-bulb fixture. They put out 5,000 lumens of light per bulb. So the whole facility has 506,000 lumens of light. Measured, we're measuring it at about just a touch over 5,000 lumens of light in the facility. So super bright. If you want to kind of put it into context, we're shooting a video right now, and normally when you're doing video, you're using some lights. We're actually not using any additional light. It's just the studio light for this video. There's no need to add any additional lighting. So kind of gives you an idea of how bright the studio really is. So part of that goes to, you know, doing a proper job. Our company's called Auto-obsessed. That's the type of work we do. That's the type of person I am. That's the type of clients we have. And if we don't have an ultra bright, clean facility, clutter-free, then we're not going to be able to do the job properly. So the floor reflects lighting really well, the walls, the ceiling, and we really don't have any dead spots in the facility, and it's working very well for us. The flooring, this is a epoxy base with multi-layer polyspartan flooring. That gives us high durability, really easy to maintain. You're not going to get dust from the floor like you would with concrete or traditional paints. Another thing is it's actually resistant to most things like oil and gas, brake fluid, even paint thinners. It doesn't touch the floor. So very durable. I wanted to go with white to maintain this look. I wanted an operating room look and feel, clean, clutter-free, and again, easy to maintain. And the floor gives us all that. The floor, having a white floor, does have its challenges. Anyone who's done a white floor would know that. But for us, I do it again and again. It's 10 years. It was white day one. 10 years later, it's still white. So something with the floor as well that's pretty cool. Well, it didn't start out that cool. So the building was built in the 50s. So we're about 70-ish years old. Over that time, a lot of transformations happened to the building. A lot of different companies were in here. And when we were looking at the building and then took possession of the building, it used to be a transmission shop for many years, actually 2 transmission shops. So about 30 some years of transmission shops. We saw the bay doors, we've got the floor drains. Didn't even dawn on us that we would have an issue with the floor. So once we got in and started ripping the place apart, we noticed that, I was washing the floor, and I noticed that the water wasn't draining to the drain. So some of it was, but most of it wasn't. So discovered later that this building was actually built as a warehouse. So a warehouse, they pour a flat floor, no slope. And over the years, it actually created a hump down the middle, so water actually went to that wall, and some of the water went here. So there was a couple inches of water up against the wall, and I'm just going, there's no way I can build a top-notch facility and have the water not go to the drains and be squeegeeing inches of water every day. That's just not even going to be possible. So unfortunately, we had to rip the flooring up. We had to bring the concrete up and re-poured the floor, so it's got a 3-inch slope, so 3 inches from the wall to the drain. And when we did that, we also put in 3,000 feet of tubing. So we're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, absolute extreme weather conditions. We're talking minus 40 Celsius in the winter to plus 40 Celsius in the summer. We range anywhere in between there. So we need a heating scenario. And what we did is put in in-floor heating. So we have hot water that runs through 3,000 feet of tubing, and that heats the building. So even though we're double-digit sub-zero outside, in here it's extremely comfortable. We're room temperature. It's a radiant style heating, so the floor obviously is super comfortable. The floor is really nice and hot. The cars will heat up to that temperature, the walls, all the equipment. We don't have any hot, cold spots, don't have any dead areas, and it's really nice to work with. It's very comfortable, and it's very efficient heating as well. So again, going into our theme of efficiency as well. So we have 6 bay doors, so we have the flexibility. We can bring cars in without having to maneuver them in the facility. You can bring them in the appropriate bays. The facility itself is 3,000 square feet. It's broken into 4 spaces. So we have our clean room, this is the studio, we have our dirty room, and we have our mechanical room. We have 3 zones that control the temperature with the floor as well. So the clean room can be a different temperature than the studio, and the studio can have a different temperature from the dirty room. So really flexible. So we might have scenarios where we have to have a different type of temperature, and we have that. We also have makeup heat. So in minus 40, you can just imagine you open up the door to let a car in or let a car out. We can have a pretty quick temperature differential. So the unit heater, if it falls below, if it falls too far below, the unit heater will kick in and heat the space quite quickly until the floor catches up again. But an amazing setup with the floor. One of the things too, so we have all the bay doors, we've got the drains. We made sure that no matter where we were in the facility, we could do all the functions. I set it up so there's lots of flexibility. So we can do detailing functions in any part of the facility. So what I mean by that is we can wash a car in the clean room. It has a floor drain in the clean room. We can wash it on any one of these bays. We can wash in the middle of the studio. We can wash in the dirty room. So unlike some other places around the world, you see they're washing the cars outside. That's not a possibility here. It gets far, far too cold. Also, if we're trying to keep the facility clean or also trying to keep the cars clean, our weather changes too much. We've got dust, it rains, it's wind, everything under the sun. Here we can control, and we've got full control of our environment and our climate in here. And we also plumbed in water into 3 areas of the facility to give us that flexibility. So 3 parts of the building, we have hot, cold, and filtered water. So we wanted to keep the space clean. So what we can do is we can bring the pressure washer. It's all quick connect. We just connect the pressure washer to whatever setting we want, whether it's hot, cold water or filtered water. The filtered water is tempered also, so it's already mixed hot, cold, so it's at the temperature that we set it for. So if we're washing a car and we don't need filtered water at that point, we just quick connect out. There's also power, 15-20 plug powers for our pressure washer. Once we're done washing the car, we just disconnect and take it away. So no clutter, really, really easy to use. The plug-in also, it can accommodate our dryers, right? So the air dryers, which take a lot of power. We can polishers, extractors. We have everything available just to quickly connect and come back out again. So with our type of detailing, we need lifts quite often. So whether we're doing a paint correction, paint protection film, sometimes we're doing wheel well details, maybe undercarriage details. So we need to pick up the car, make it, again, going to that model of efficient, clean, also safe for the guys. So when we're working on the cars, you know, you're not on the ground, you're not breaking your back. When we're polishing, we can polish right at this height. So these portable lifts work out quite nice. Kind of a fun fact, when I opened the studio, I had planned for the portable lifts, and the reason why I did the portable lifts was you would see in some of our videos and pictures that this turns into a studio, like a photo studio as well, or a video studio, and having lifts fixed into the concrete just wasn't an option. I did have the concrete removed, so we could have easily did it, but it wasn't something that I thought would work out well, because then we have the lifts in fixed spots and it just isn't as flexible. You can't put the car sideways and do a lot of the things that you see in our pictures and videos. But one thing, when I was doing all the calculations and designing the studio and figuring out, okay, how's this going to work? Where do we need power? Where do we need this? And a lot of it was done kind of sketches and just doing a lot of research. So I hadn't used one of these lifts before. Looked at the specs, says about 3.5 inches. Well, if you look at cars, we have 3.5 inches of clearance. So I figured we could get most vehicles over the lift without having any sort of ramp system. And lo and behold, we opened the studio, try to put a car in a lift, and yeah, it's a no-go. Actually, we did figure that out before the studio was open, which was good. But at any rate, we needed some sort of option. And with the way I built the studio, there was no way I was going to be using 2x10s and building some sort of thing out of wood. Some ramps we drive over, they would look horrible, too heavy, awkward, probably damage a car, or they would slip or something, and there was no way I was going to have that. So a friend of mine has a garage outfit company, so they do shelving and floor coatings, all kind of equipment you need for your home garage. And at any rate, they were carrying race ramps. And I had seen race ramps at the track. You see them used on trailers and such. And I thought, you know, I wonder if they have an option. So he looked into it. There was no option. So I says, you know what, why don't you see if race ramps will build us those? And so I gave him all the specs that I needed. He reached out, and Race Ramps went ahead and built us a set of custom ramps. Well, with all our pictures and videos that was out there, Race Ramps got so much demand for these ramps that they actually put them into production, and they're a stockable item. So if you've got a set of those race ramps or you've seen them, they originated here. They were our concept, and Race Ramps built them for us. They used our pictures in their marketing as well. So kind of a fun fact on the Race Ramps. So one of the things that we like to do quite a bit, so when we're not using the lift and even the ramps, we tuck everything away in our mechanical room. The lifts we can tuck underneath our counters. That's why we have the sections lifted like that, so we can just slide them out underneath. We can still have the cars where they are, and actually normally the cars are a little bit more forward, especially if we're working on cars behind it. We also have, you'll notice in the ceiling, we have a crane. We'll sometimes pick up the lifts and hang them against the wall and keep them out of the way. Or we have two other rooms. We can put them in the clean room, or we can put them in the dirty room as well. So very flexible space. You've probably seen pictures and videos of cars in different configurations. We also sometimes rent out the detailing studio for photo shoots or video shoots. So very flexible, and it works quite well for our scenario. So to keep with our theme, to have everything neat and organized, all of our detailing products, our brushes, all the liquids, tools, polishers, buffing pads, towels, everything's kept neatly in the counters. One, it makes it a lot easier for us to keep the facility clean. There's not a whole bunch of things that would gather dust and such. When we take our pictures in our video, we've got a clean background, so we don't have to worry about that. We've got nice working space. So we basically broke it down in 3 stations. So the 3 countertops, so you can do some things on the countertops, and then all the tools, whether it's various hand tools or polishers, everything's tucked away nice and neatly there, so we can easily grab it. So the guys, basically what we do is we take a detailing cart, we load it up what we're going to need. Let's say we're doing interior, for example. The cart has the vacuum on it. We've got our brushes. We have all of the tools and products that we need to do that. We go to the car, we do the job, and then we take it away and we put it back in the mechanical room. And we're on to the next thing. The other thing too is, as I mentioned, we do all of the work in this main studio. The studio is kept so clean, and we control the environment in here with our dust-free tiles, with our walls. We also never open up those bay doors. So the bay doors are only open to bring a car in and out, and other than that, it's not. Also with the white floor, anybody that's had a white floor will know, as soon as you move the car, you're gonna have to take care of the floor. So the floor is being washed quite often, or wet mopped quite often, and that keeps all the facility really clean, dust-free. So we can be polishing, and we can do paint protection film just within a matter of feet, and we don't have issues on dust control. So it works out really, really well that way. Okay, and over here we have our sink. So we wash our hands, we can wash tools, fill products, ample room underneath for extra sprayers, anything we need. We have PPE, everything we have in the studio. So all of our detailing products, our brushes, our towels, our tools, everything's kept out here and hidden away. So all the stations are kind of broken down for a specific purpose, and everything's kind of tucked away in here. Another thing we had to do when I was designing the building, I had to kind of forecast what kind of power requirements we'd have. So you'll notice there's 220 plugs throughout the building. So had to kind of forecast, maybe future lifts, extractors, maybe a welder. Another thing too that happened, they didn't know at the time, but now we got a lot of electric cars. So at the time there was no electric cars, but I do have power provisions for that. Over the years we've got a fair amount of Teslas. We have a Tesla charger here, so we can plug in our Tesla charger to the stations and top up the customers' cars. They pick it up and they got a fully charged car. On the workbenches, we've got our stations set up kind of again for various needs. In addition to whatever's in the cabinets, We have our airlines. For the airline, we've got our airlines running through the walls. That helps where we've got the compressor in a completely different room. We don't have to hear it. We don't have unsightly lines. Here we got our a valve for water, so we can drain the water out of it. We also have a water trap at the compressor. You'll notice too we have a 45-degree angle on here. So I was concerned, normally they stick straight out, and I was quite concerned that if someone didn't put the line in properly or didn't lock properly, it could send the hose and hit a car. So I purposely put a 45-degree angle on it, so if the hose did come undone, it might hit the counter or might hit the floor and stay away from the car. So that's why they're at 45. We have telephone Ethernet plugs throughout. Lots of power, so we've got 15, 20 plugs throughout on separate circuits. So we can plug in our polishers, our vacuums, our air dryers. Ample power requirements at each station and throughout the studio. In the cabinets, this is where we keep our polishers. So all our different polishers are in these drawers, and backing plates, appropriate tools. Some of our detailing products, this is where our Swiss Wax is kept, Swiss Wax waxes, our Swiss Wax detailing products, microfiber towels, again, all our detailing products that we need for this particular station. Over here, you'll notice we've got a security monitor. We have a very extensive security system and camera system, so we can keep an eye on the facility at all times. Same thing, we've got our airlines, telephone Ethernet, power plugs. We've got in all our toolboxes, each station will also have the power cords, our airlines, everything that we need to do our jobs. Up top here, you'll notice we've got a unit heater. So as I mentioned, it gets super cold here. This year is no exception. So we get to -40 all the way up to +40 in the summertime. We had a solid month of up to -40 this year, so really, really cold. And if you've got the door open for a couple minutes to maybe move a car or two, we're going to have a lot of heat loss pretty quickly. So this is a makeup air system, so that unit will kick in when the temperature drops below a certain point, runs and then stops, and then our floor will catch up, and then everything comes back to normal again. So it actually recovers really, really quickly with this radiant system. And this is the mechanical room. This is where we keep all of our heavy equipment, our tools, our carts, keeping the studio neat and tidy and keeping all the equipment away from our cars. Here we have our liquid products for dispensing. We've got our touch-up system here, our microfiber laundry system. We've got some extra carts. Everything we do, we put on carts, whether it's equipment or detailing products, and we take them to the cars. That keeps everything neat and tidy and safe. We've got some stools, steamer, our hydraulic table for doing wheels. We've got some pads here waiting to be washed. We have our extractor system. We've got various vacuum cleaners and dryers, extra tools, polishing carts, extra carts, our race ramps. We've got our pressure washers here, our hydraulics for our lifts, the IR curing lights for the ceramic coatings, and then on the back wall here, this is where the boiler is and all the controls that control the heating and put water through the floors to keep the floors all nice and warm in the wintertime. And this is the dirty room. It's not actually dirty, but that was the name it was coined when I was building the facility 10 years ago. Kind of had in mind, I wanted a part of the facility that we could isolate from the rest of the studio. So this room here, we've got 2 doors in the room, and we can put a vehicle in here. We've got enough room to work around it, have the doors open and everything, and we can isolate it from the rest of the studio. This room also has all the amenities that we need to do all of our detailing services. We have our exhaust fan that's separate for this room. We have our hot, cold filtered water. It has a floor drain. This room also has the heated floor. From time to time, we might need to isolate the car from the rest of the studio. We might be doing a single stage paint correction on a lacquer car. We're using a wool pad and making a whole lot of dust, and we want that separate from the studio. We've got the exhaust fan here so we can ventilate the room and pull the dust out. Or with the heated floor in the winter time, sometimes this room gets quite humid, so we can turn on the exhaust fan and pull the humidity out after washing car, or if we're doing a lot of work with maybe an undercarriage detail and we're using a lot of water, bringing that humidity way up, we have that flexibility as well. Sometimes too, the room serves as the opposite purpose. So sometimes we're doing something in the studio, for example, and we have a car maybe that's finished, or we have a car in process, and we don't want that affected by what's going on in the studio. We can bring the car in this room and isolate it from our studio. A few occasions as well, we've had customers that had high profile cars and they didn't want it revealed yet. So we've been asked to kind of keep it separate from the rest of the studio. The studio has a glass door, so public can come to the glass door and take a look and see what's going on in the studio. So we can close the doors on this room and kind of have it in its secret location and have it separate from the rest of it out of the public eyes, and not spoil the reveal. So we've had to do that a few times for clients, which is quite interesting. So again, we can do all aspects of detailing in here. We can do decon washing, full car washing, maintenance washing, wheel off, undercarriage, engine bay, paint corrections, paint protection film, ceramic coating. Basically everything we do. Our plotter's also in this room, so we cut all the film in this room. Maybe in the past you've seen some pictures, or you've seen us mention the dirty room, and you're looking at the picture going, kind of hard to understand where that is in relation to the rest of the studio. So this kind of, maybe this kind of helps out and puts a better perspective of what this room's all about and where it is. So this is the dirty room. This is my favorite part of the facility. This is the Auto Obsessed Customer Lounge and the Auto Obsessed Clean Room. So the concept came about many years ago when I was younger. I thought it would be really cool to have a car in my living room. And at the time, building Auto Obsessed, in my personal world, that hadn't happened yet. So 10 years ago, when I was putting together the concept of what I wanted the facility to look like and what it would, kind of the workings of that facility, I thought it'd be really cool to put that dream, that concept into the working operations for Auto Obsessed. The customer lounge is kind of has a few different things, like I say, that living room type concept. And the clean room, so the clean room, I had to kind of come up with what our future would look like. So 10 years ago, there wasn't a previous facility. So this is version 1 of the Auto Obsessed detailing facility. And the only things I was going by were some of my dreams and kind of forecasting what we would need to perform that specific type of detailing service. I did have a few garages in the past that they were the ultimate garage. And so some of those concepts came into our studio and into our clean room as well. But one of the prime purposes of the clean room, and that's why it's called the clean room, we have the ability to take a vehicle from our working studio and bring it into now this enclosed, isolated area from the working parts of the building. Here's the brightest part of the building. So right now the lighting is only about 5%. From what it can go to, and that's because we're filming this video, and if I turned everything on right now, it's like nuclear. It's so bright, it'll just wash everything right out on the cameras. So we have to dim it down to control it with the white walls, white floors, white ceilings, and all that lighting. It gets pretty crazy. But we bring it into the clean room. Now we can go over and do those final details, those touch-ups, inspections. We can see everything under this lighting in this facility. Also, when we take our pictures, so we put together a nice little picture presentation for the customers. So here we're not worrying about background, we're not worrying about lighting or anything else that would interfere with the pictures. And if you've been following us for a while, you'll see on our website we've got these, we call it the signature shots, or our clean room shot. So it's all the cars are sitting a certain way in the clean room, and it's framed a certain way, and it looks kind of cool when they're all together. We got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them on our website, and it kind of looks like the cars they're little toy cars in boxes, which I think is really cool. And we adopted that very, very early. Even the first few cars were done that way, and then we've been doing that for 10 years now. So the customers really enjoy that. They like to see the pictures. They like to see their car posing in our clean room, and that's a big function of this room. Another thing is, I mentioned the customers have the opportunity now to go and view the car. So I could never understand why, especially high-end shops, they would have the customer cars outside when they're done. It's pretty hard to control the outside environment, and also it's not its best lighting. Here, I kind of joke with the client and I say, this is your best lighting and this is our worst lighting. And what I mean by that is, when everything's on, there is nothing, you can't hide anything. The customers can see absolutely everything, so it's their best lighting. It's our worst lighting because it's very sterile, it's very unforgiving. So we go through quite a number of processes to make sure on our final checks and balances that everything's done to the scope of the job as the customer had requested. So the customer has the opportunity to take their time, walk around the vehicle, inspect, ask us questions, maybe go over how they maintain it, or maybe they're looking, keeping some things in mind for the future as well. Another function of the room is this whole part of it here, the waiting lounge and the clean room. It's set up also so we can hold events. Maybe we have a special car that needs to be unveiled. We have an isolated portion of the building. We can accommodate a number of people, slide the doors open, and this whole room opens right up. Lighting is flexible in the waiting area here, highly flexible in the studio, so we can kind of control and adjust and make the room to whatever we need to make it for those types of events. So that's kind of the whole overview of the waiting area, the clean room. There's lots of things I want to show you in the clean room and go over its lighting and some of the cool features that it has. So one of the coolest features of the clean room is its lighting. We set up a really flexible lighting scenario. When this room is fully lit, we got 145,000 lumens of light. Right now we've got our display light or our presentation light or our event lighting on. We have 68 color hues right now. They're in a flashing sequence, kind of like twinkle stars. And right now, as I mentioned earlier, it's about 5% in here right now. So we have full control over the lighting. This is nice for doing a presentation of the car. As I mentioned, an event, maybe we're doing some cool pictures and we need to be flexible with the light. We have the ability to switch from sequences. So for example, I can change now the color. And this is kind of neat, especially with a white car and a white room. So we can change the colors. And right now it's just going to do just a little bit of a sequence from red switching over into all the colors. And it gives it a really nice effect, great for pictures. Customers really like it too, to see their car in a little bit different lighting when they first come into the clean room to see their car. So that's one of the lights that we have, the ability to change all the colors and to dial it in. We can go bulb by bulb by bulb if we wanted to. Christmas time, we can go ahead and put Christmas lights on, for example. So we'll just do a quick Christmas light. So it's kind of like your Christmas tree. It's going to be red and green and blue here. So it's just a nice little effect. So we'll give you an idea now of how bright this room really goes. So I'm just going to turn everything off here. So now we're ramping up our main hue lights. We just got to wait a second here. Okay, now I've got all the lights static on full bright, and now we're going to turn on the big overhead lights here, just to give you an idea what kind of lighting we have in this room. So here's the full effect of the lighting now. All the 68 bulbs are on 100%. We have the T5 high output lights on. So it's an output of 145,000 lumens of light, measured about 4.5 feet. We're right around 7,000, just shy of 7,000 lumens of light in this room. So ultra bright, ultra clean. So the flooring's the same as the studio. We've got the poly Spartan flooring. It's white. It's also heated. We have the ability to control this zone completely separate. So the clean room's on its own zone where we can have the temperature higher or lower, just depending on what we're doing in this room. So sometimes with a car in the room and all the lighting on and maybe a little bit of equipment, we bring up the heat quite a bit so we can dial the room in and bring it more comfortable if we have to. The walls are all done in the PVC, just like the studio, so super bright, really easy to clean. We can get the walls wet, really easy to maintain. It has some of the things that you saw in the studio as well, where we have the airlines. So the airline's plumbed in here behind the walls, so we can use any of our air tools. We have a 220 plug, so we can use our IR heating lamps to bake the ceramic coatings. We can plug in Teslas or other electric cars, charge them up in this room. Basically everything we need to not only do our final details presentation and events in this room, but we also have it set up to do a full detail. So the floor is sloped. We've got the floor drain. We just run the water in here and away we go. We can do a full wash. We can dry the cars. We can polish the cars. We can do everything in this room. It was designed for us to be able to use this room as an extra bay if we had to, or maybe training situations or special event situations where we didn't want to use the studio and we brought it into this room here. So that covers our tour of what I think is an ultimate detailing studio. And if you have any comments, please comment below. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please hit subscribe and click the notification icon to be notified when we release new videos. We have a whole arsenal of videos coming out this season, so you're going to want to check those out. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like. We'd really appreciate that. And thank you for watching.